Tonight on Reel to Reel, we'll discover how some Los Angeles street people are acting on their future.
From the pulpit, Monsignor Daniel Murray has insight into Isaiah.
We'll meet a group of caring volunteers who bring the light of Christ to the poor in New York.
And Father Tom Legere talks to us about not keeping busy.
Hello, I'm Jane Rudolph.
And I'm Father Dave McAllen. Welcome to Reel to Reel.
Since we're in the midst of winter right now, this month calls to mind other Februaries that have given us some pretty severe snowstorms. It's obviously a hardship to be homeless and live on the streets all year long, but it must be especially hard not to have a place to stay when the snow starts to fall.
Of course, there are parts of the country where snow never falls, but that doesn't make it any easier to call the street home. For our first story tonight, we'll travel to a place where, if it snowed, it would be quite a phenomenon. Los Angeles.
We'll meet an actress there, Lauren Hartman, who is doing her part to help those living on the streets. She started the Inner City Art Center for the Homeless, which offers workshops in acting, music, art, and writing.
Those seeking refuge from the desperate streets of LA have a chance to develop their innate talents and build self-esteem, a good first step in escaping the hopelessness of the streets.
Most people down in the area, once they're down here, every day that they stay down here means that their pride, their initiative, their desire to get out of here gets pushed down. And every day gets pushed lower and lower and lower until before they realize it, they've got comfortable with it down here.
Russell Garner has done time in prison and mental hospitals. Now he lives on the streets of Skid Row in Los Angeles.
We down here don't really need food. We can get that pretty easy. What we need is somebody, some people, some groups, or whatever, to look upon us as worthwhile citizens who have something to offer.
It was here at the City Stage, a small experimental theater in Skid Row, that Russell Garner and others like him met actress Lauren Hartman and rediscovered the meaning of self-respect.
When I first came to City Stage, like I said, I came here with a grain of salt, and I said, oh boy, here's another one of these people. And then I found out that, she was really interested in working with people who wanted to work with themselves.
Eager to make the City Stage a part of the community, Hartman decided to offer free acting, music, and writing workshops to homeless people in the neighborhood. Her workshops uncovered a wealth of talent and have given participants a new reason to live.
You're fighting violence, you're fighting pressures, heavy drugs in this neighborhood. You're fighting so much, and I can see how it would be very, very easy to succumb and just say, well, why don't I just go get a rock or a drink, and sit out here. It's easier, it takes the pain away. But we're trying to do it the other way. Come here and see what you can create, see what your own potential is. And I think it's been pretty successful. I mean, we work with small groups of people, but I think that, as they say, if you can help just one person, it's worth it.
I've been going around for a long time with a very lousy image of myself. And in the 9-10 months I've been here, I found out, hey, I'm not as bad as I think I am. I can do something that interests other people, other people like.
Yeah. Give us this day our daily bread. And forgive us the trespasses as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever.
For Steve Moore and Tony Williams, the Inner City Art Center has become a place to compose and practice their original music.
Being homeless on Skid Row is a lonely, lonely experience. We don't have any place to go or anything to do, and we don't make friends very easily. My last appointment was at the welfare office, and the worker told me to sit down and shut up. Your day is Thursday, not today. So I don't go over there anymore. And I used to like to go to church, but when they find out you come from Skid Row, they laugh at you, and little kids walk up and say things like, "We aren't giving anything away today, bum." So I don't go to church anymore either. I just go from the mission to the park, and back to the mission, and back to the park.
Thomas Gist came to the Inner City Art Center with a vague notion that he wanted to write and act. His own life experiences became the basis of his writings.
The life of a street-level heroin addict, like I was, is based on money and dope. You get money and buy dope, and get money and buy dope, and get money and buy dope. And sometimes you find yourself in some bad situations. Like this one time, this friend of mine and me, we were shooting dope in my apartment. And while we shot this dope, we tried to think of some place to get more money, something to sell to get more money, so we could have more dope when we finished this dope. And I remembered, I've got a rifle we could sell, and it's in good shape, and all I have to do is take it, see, and bam! Man, I didn't know this gun was Oh, God. Oh, God! Oh, my God! I didn't mean to shoot you! Don't die. But he died anyway. I'm an ex-drug addict and alcoholic, you see. And all the names people have ever called me was some I can't say right here, right now. But then when you come to City Stage and you get in a play and then you see people jump up and start cheering and clapping, you think, wait, man, wait a minute, you know, maybe I'm not so bad after all, you know?
In spite of good reviews and lots of attention from the media, the Inner City Art Center will probably have to close its doors for lack of financial support.
We've had donations, very nice and heartfelt donations of paper or, you know, pencils or magic markers or something. That's not really what we need. We're in the situation where we can't really most likely pay our rent next month. And I think people think this is a wonderful thing. However, I don't think they take it very seriously. I think there's an image that there's a group of people who are putting down finger paints for people to therapeutically play with colors in order to waste some time. And I think this is a totally incorrect image and very distorted, because I feel very, very strongly that art is a very important part of our society. In this country, we generally consider it a luxury, something that's expendable, something that is for play, but it isn't. It's very, very important. It's our only reflection of ourselves.
The Inner City Art Center has given a few homeless people a new hope for the future and a sense of self-respect which they eagerly pass to their neighbors on the street.
When someone even suggests merely that you might be alcoholic, you become angry.
Well,
Don't tell me nothing.
can I tell you something?
Yes.
Can you take me to Alcoholics Anonymous because I want to stop drinking?
Okay, come back tomorrow and prove to me that you want to stop, and I'll take you. I'll go with you. But if I tell you while you're drunk, you won't even remember tomorrow. Okay. You know?
It may be a while before their names appear on the star-studded sidewalks of Hollywood just a few miles away, but in the city of dreams, anything is possible.
God, I have no other choice. I must return to her night after night after night. She is the city.
The number of people living on the streets grows daily. While it may not be the answer for every city, it's good to know that there are places like the LA Inner City Art Center helping the homeless discover a brighter future.
We'll be right back.
The House of Charity can be found at work throughout South Jersey, wherever there is suffering and distress. Through its agencies, compassionate care goes to the elderly. The needy receive food and clothing. Special education programs administer to the mentally handicapped. Expectant mothers receive pre- and postnatal care, and medical services are rendered to the ill. Support the House of Charity in South Jersey. Touch someone's life with love.
Ecclesiastes says there's nothing new under the sun, and so does Monsignor Murray.
Tonight, he points out to us that unless we be on our guard, we can be just as deaf to the prophets of our day as Isaiah's contemporaries were to him. We know the consequences of Israel's deafness. May we avoid the same mistake.
The kind of fasting I want is this: remove the chains of oppression and the yoke of injustice, and let the oppressed go free. Share your food with the hungry and open your homes to the homeless poor. Give clothes to those who have nothing to wear, and do not refuse to help your own relatives. The prophet Isaiah preached to the people of Judah some 700 years before Christ was born. After a while, the people got tired of his message. Does he have nothing else to do but preach to us daily about injustice, hunger, poverty, and suffering? Isaiah's message stemmed from his deep convictions. His religious sensibilities were enraged by the people's callous response to social injustices in Judah. To him, everyone seemed to be walking around in a trance, hypnotized by some powerful evil. He would scream out, trying to wake up those who were around him. How can you feel comfortable going to bed at night when there is so much violence, hunger, and suffering? Today, we get tired of the prophetic voices of our bishops and others who will not tolerate complacency. With Isaiah, they warn us against empty gestures. Prayer and fasting must be accompanied by a true love of God in the heart. God isn't impressed by bowing and scraping, by sackcloth and ashes. What God wants is genuine service to one another. Share your food with those who have nothing. Take care of those who do not even have the bare essentials of life. There is no denying we live in a very complex world. The problems seem insurmountable. Jesus in the gospel says we can make a difference. He uses the images of salt and light to describe the disciples' role in society. Just a little pinch of salt can add a lot of flavor to food. A single lighted candle can go a long way to dispel darkness. This is the gospel perspective. It's the only approach. Isaiah warned that we cannot be timid in rooting out the causes of injustice. Otherwise, we jeopardize the peace of the world. Jesus warns that failure to be salt and light jeopardizes our eternal salvation.
People in this country don't know how to relax anymore. It seems that everyone is working harder and longer to get ahead. This nonstop pace is held in high esteem in America, where people see workaholics as successful individuals.
But Father Tom Legere is up next with a perspective that might make workaholics feel a bit uneasy. Sure, it's fine and important for us to keep busy, but if we're always working incessantly, when do we have time to contemplate what our lives are about?
Greetings in the Lord. One of the great things about a snowfall is that it gives us a little more time on our hands. Things get canceled. I know some people are probably thinking about the old thing we used to hear, that an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Well, it's true that when we do have some time on our hands, we do tend to meet our inner devils, but we also meet God there too. People who are constantly busy, who make themselves keeping busy, these are the ones who never meet their inner demons, but they never meet God either. They tend to be superficial in that way. Now, I know some people are busy because they're really trying to serve other people, but a lot of times we use busyness as an excuse to run away from ourselves. It's kind of a socially acceptable narcotic. You keep going and you never have to really stop and take a good look at yourself. When we look at any of the great people who have ever existed, people like Thomas Merton or Albert Einstein, we see that they were always contemplatives. And of course, when we look at Jesus the Master, we see the epitome of a contemplative person. For 30 years in his life, he lived in relative obscurity. And even during the 3 years of his public life, there were plenty of times when he was simply unavailable. He made sure that he had time to be by himself. Now, was this the attitude of a selfish person? No, not at all. Because before you can give yourself away to other people, first of all, you have to know who you are. And so he made sure that he had plenty of time to get in touch with who he was and work on his relationship with the Father. I can think of a contemporary psychologist who was big on contemplation too, and that was Carl Jung. He used to take at one point in his life 1 month off out of every 4 to think and to do research. Now, I know ourselves, we might say, oh, that's really goofing off, but he didn't see it that way at all. In fact, there was one time there was a woman who wanted an appointment with him, and he said that his schedule was all booked up. And she saw him later on sitting by the lake outside of his home, and she said, I thought you were all booked up. And he said, I was busy. He said, I had an appointment with somebody very important, and that is myself. You know, for ourselves, we don't buy a lot of this stuff, and that's why we have ulcers. This is why we have heart attacks and migraines. And what are we trying to prove? Let's just slow down and let God be God.
You know, Father, when I look back on how I sometimes spend my week running around at breakneck speed, it often seems that I haven't accomplished much. And I think Father Legere has a valid point. It is important to give yourself time and take a break.
You know, Jane, I think you're right. As a matter of fact, I think we should take a break right now. We'll be right back, so just relax. A few weeks ago, we at Reel to Reel began an appeal for your financial support. Many of you responded generously, and we wholeheartedly thank you. Because of that, we're able to continue to bring you our show every week. However, we still need and appreciate your continued support. As you know, for the past 5 seasons, we've been able to bring you this weekly show, requesting only your cards and letters in return. If you're a new viewer, or if you've enjoyed the message of Reel to Reel over these past years, we'd like to thank you for watching and invite you to participate in this venture by actively supporting the show. Today, with costs rising all around us, we need your financial support. A donation of $5, $10, $20, or whatever you can send would help ensure the continued presence of this program. Send your contributions to Reel, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, PA 19103, and thank you for your help. From the homeless in California to the poor in New York, there are many people calling out for help. Fortunately, there are people willing to respond. Right now, it's off to New York to meet a group of volunteers reaching out to the poor.
The volunteers, calling themselves lamp ministers, work with the priests in New York's inner-city parishes. There they commit themselves to a year-long term of service, whether it be housing needs, medical needs, or just friendship. The lamp ministers are ready to bring the light of God's love to the spiritually and materially poor.
These noisy streets, crowded apartments, forgotten rooms represent better days gone by, probably harder days to come. While most choose to ignore the rubble and hardship, 17 people known as lamp ministers are reaching out to the residents of this neighborhood and others, offering a blend of evangelism and social work.
You want to give me 5 or 10?
In recent years, we felt a desire to be more involved directly with the poor, realizing the gift they are, and basically wanting to be with them and help them come more into experiencing the life of the church.
Tom Sharing and his wife Lynn founded Lamp Ministries 5 years ago.
Well, through LAMP, we recruit and train qualified laypersons who are willing to commit at least a full year to serve with the materially poor, but with the emphasis on evangelization, on the faith-building ministries, seen holistically, but meant to complement the different social outreaches in the area.
In exchange for a place to live, medical insurance, and a small stipend, lamp ministers serve various parishes in the dioceses of New York, Brooklyn, and Newark. They work side by side with priests such as Father Joseph Sexton of Our Lady of the Rosary Parish in Yonkers.
I'm a firm believer in everybody having a share in the mission of Jesus Christ. And whether you're ordained or not ordained, well, it only makes a difference as to the specific role that you're going to be playing. If you're not ordained, okay, you can't say Mass, you can't hear confessions, but there's a lot more to doing the work of Christ.
Basically, the poor parishes really can't afford to go out and hire someone to, say, do home visiting or youth ministry, that kind of work. And on the other hand, lay people are relatively limited in what they're able to do in the church in terms of pastoral ministry. And we thought there must be lay people around who want to work with the poor, with a focus on the faith-building types of ministries, and certainly the parishes need it.
3 bedrooms, it's like a bedroom and
The responsibilities of these urban missionaries vary with the days. They could be offering solace to an ill parishioner one day, finding housing for the homeless another, or just lending an ear to someone fallen on hard times.
Years ago, the churches used to be full, and we never felt the need to reach out. But all the other churches are reaching out, and all these little storefront churches are attracting people because the parishioners, or the people who go to these storefronts, feel a sense of community. And the Catholic Church just has to reach out. But sometimes it's just door to door. Frequently, it's the parents of children who are just baptized, or the parents of children who are in a religious education program. If they can experience some love from the church, then they realize, gee, is this what it's about? You know, Jesus is here, you know, he's in me and he loves me, and, you know, together I need my brothers and sisters. So it becomes a very logical thing to become part of the faith community again.
Some may ask, who are these men and women that have given up material security and prestige to strengthen the faith and lives of others? Their backgrounds are as varied as their job duties. They include Sister Emmanuel of the Community of Adorers of the Mother of Christ, Mary Beth Mutmansky, a single woman who gave up a high-paying career, Ron Englert from Phoenix, Arizona. And then there's Glenn and Sherry Smith, who met through the Lamp Ministries and later married.
Well, I know for myself, as a teenager and in my early 20s, I was really looking for something that could really nourish my own spiritual growth.
As catalysts, hopefully, just what Sherry said, our loving presence will help others to, especially those who maybe aren't part of this parish community, feel like that they would want to be part of this parish community.
Young people also play an important role in Lamp Ministries. In a world which often sees youth cast in a negative light, Lamplighters is a mission by and for children, a vehicle which allows them to grow in their Christian faith. Mary Beth Mutmansky is the guiding force for Lamplighters.
And they put all of their love and all of their energy into it, and they have a real good time. We have a lot of fun together, and they go home feeling that they've given of themselves, and that, I think, in our society today, for children and for teenagers, that's so important because it cuts through the other messages that they receive from our society, which is so consumer-oriented and so self-oriented. But they experience giving of themselves, and it tastes real good to them.
We feel that every ministry in the church should have its aspect for youth. It used to be that young people were trained in being what it means to be a Christian through the family life, but that more often than not isn't happening anymore. And then there's no avenue for them to see, well, what does a Christian mean? What does being a Christian mean today?
I think Jesus was really reveling in just, that old maybe.
Along with the joys of giving come frustrations. For this reason, the Lamp Ministers meet weekly to share their experiences and offer support to one another.
For the first month, I had a very difficult time adjusting to New York. And it was very comforting to know that that support was there. And I've experienced that support over the month that I've been here.
Without the sense of community, of the bonding together that the Spirit has created among the Lent ministers, I really think it would be more difficult, if not impossible, to minister.
It's like being in a foreign country, really, because they come from different parts of the country, and it's the inner city of New York would be like a foreign country to them. So we feel it's very important for us to provide a sense of community and ongoing support.
These streets have indeed seen better days, and probably will see even harder times before things get better. But by strengthening the faith among the poor today, the lamp ministers hope others will be inspired to reach out to the alienated, the unchurched, and the homeless tomorrow. For as their credo states, we all need to remember that the light of God's love is inside each of us.
We would hope that the people that are touched by the lamp ministers would more than anything know their own goodness, know that they're loved by the Lord and they're of value, they're worthwhile, they're good people, that they would begin to get in touch with the Lord that's in them.
It's a sense of social justice and sincere concern that motivates people like the lamp ministers to volunteer their time for those in need.
Yes, and those involved in lamp ministries feel as though they're not just building other people's faith, but their own as well.
And we have faith that you'll write to us at
Real to Real, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, PA 19103. That's Real to Real, 222 North 17th Street, room 907, Philadelphia, PA 19103.
Or call us during business hours at area code 215-668-9842. That's area code 215-668-9842.
Next week on Real to Real, we'll have a moment in history with Father Joe Glass.
We'll meet a Jesuit actor who can see comedy where others see tragedy.
Father Art Smith suggests we choose our words carefully.
Mike Gallagher joins us for another arts review.
And we'll speak with the recently installed Bishop of Metuchen, Bishop Edward Hughes.
We hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Good night.
Good night, and have a peaceful night, for Jesus is Lord.
Travel arrangements for Reel to Reel by Atkinson and Mullen Travel of Media, PA. Phone area 215-565-7070.
Many people find retirement isn't as much fun as they thought it would be. Too much time on their hands, too little to do. The Retired Senior Volunteer Program has thousands of opportunities for retired executives, housewives, engineers, teachers, whatever your skills or schedule. RSVP has something to fit anyone's interests. You've learned a lot in your life. Share the experience of a lifetime.